Hello, vinyl community. It's Brian with you again. I'm going to do a contest entry for a channel called Northern Revolutions. That channel is hosted by a fellow named Rob. Northern in the title refers to Canada. We're both from Canada, and Revolutions is fairly obvious. Rob's channel is one of the first ones I discovered upon entering the vinyl community, I guess about 5 months ago now. And it's a very interesting channel because Rob is a big supporter of Canadian music, and he features a lot of really interesting Canadian artists and some very rare Canadian records. He's also a big Beatles fan, and he's got a pretty impressive collection of guitars, and I think he's built many of them. So interesting channel. I'll put a link below. You should check it out. So his contest is called the Northern Revolutions Get to Know Ya contest. So obviously he's asking you to be a subscriber and make a video and let him know. And he's offering an Amazon gift card. So the first part of the contest is to give a shout out to a channel, preferably a smaller channel. So clearly channels with fewer subscribers than I have. And then to show 3 records that take you back to a time or a place or a person or event in your life that have some strong memories or sentimental value. So first, the shout-outs, which I often find difficult because there are so many channels. But if I restrict it to people who have slightly fewer subscribers than me, I've narrowed it down. And instead of just giving one, I'm going to give several. So first is Ben Rankins from Australia. I love his channel because he has a great sense of humor. And it seems like an encyclopedic knowledge of Australian music. So I'm often, after I watch his videos, I'm just mystified because I often don't know any of the artists. It's really eye-opening, and he's a nice guy. Second one is Mgk Boston, a Canadian in Boston. Very interesting channel, friendly guy. I really like what he's doing. Mike's got the spins. I'll put links to all these below, which is just a genuine, friendly guy who's really interested in music. You can tell he's really devoted to music, and he has a interesting memorabilia collection of things like guitar picks, which I find interesting. David, your Vicar Vinyl Craner, a Torontonian. I like his style, like the stuff he shows. Very good. And lastly, Hitch a Ride, which is Bernard from Montreal. And interestingly, he was the winner of the Robert Z VC lottery, so I've been watching him open up these packages he's getting for the alphabet, which is fantastic. Such a nice guy, friendly guy, and so I recommend you go check all those out. And I know I've missed other channels that I should have shouted out to, but try those ones first. And so with respect to the records that we're supposed to show, 3 records that have sentimental value or remind me of a place or an event or a person. That was really difficult for me because there's just so many. And just to give you a couple of examples of things I didn't talk about, I was going to mention Billy Joel's The Stranger because my sister was a big fan and I used to listen to it in her room when I was a younger person. That one I considered. I also considered some early Elton John because of some parties I went to as family get-togethers, not drinking parties, like family get-togethers, and we'd hang out in a room with a stereo and listen to whatever was there. But I focused on 3 other things just because the music means more to me and they've endured with me. So, I don't really listen to Elton John very much anymore. I'm not really a fan of Billy Joel, but I do have some records. So I'm going to start with a record that I didn't get the year it came out. I got a little bit later, and that is Joy Division, Unknown Pleasures. Now, I would rank this, sometimes I feel this is the greatest record ever made, but it would be in the top 10 of my records for sure. And the reason I mention it is because I'm from a very small town, a town that didn't have a record store, and a very conservative town, and a town with very provincial tastes in music. So I might have mentioned in the past my dad being a fan of ABBA and Fleetwood Mac, but you would be hard pressed to find anyone who listened to something beyond what you'd hear on AM radio or maybe even classic rock radio. There just wasn't that kind of culture there. So when I heard about this record, not in 1979 when it came out, but a little bit later, I decided I'd pick it up. Now, I have a funny story about picking it up in that I used to watch a VC channel from a guy named Dr. Deadwax. He made, I guess, videos starting 10 years ago and ending about 5 years ago. He hasn't made one since, but I recall that he was he told a story of how he was in a record store once, and he had a copy of this record in one hand, and I think he said a Flock of Seagulls record in the other hand, and he bought the Flock of Seagulls and regretted it for years after that. I had a similar situation. I was in the store, and I had, in one hand I had this record, in the other hand I had a cassette copy, and for whatever reason I bought the cassette, and that was clearly a dumb thing to do, because I'm not a fan of cassettes. I don't understand the comeback of cassettes, but later I did pick this up. So this is not from 1979, this is from 1985. It's a UK pressing, though. And, in terms of vivid memories, I actually have a memory of putting the cassette in when I bought it and pressing the play button and hearing Disorder for the first time, and was floored by it. I thought it was just an incredible song. The label is white on one side, black on the other. Of course, this is a famous cover designed by Peter Saville, but he took the image from some astronomer's PhD dissertation about, I think these are radio waves. And I love the minimal design on this. And I'll always remember pressing the play button on that cassette, something that I will never forget. And just loving this record so much. And it's just, I find it incredible. And the artwork too, for me, it's the fact that there's no name on the front of this thing, I think is really interesting. It's sort of, usually commercial records, they want to get the name out there. Big letter is the name of the thing. There's nothing here. So it's like, what is this? So I think that is a fantastic record. So that obviously memories of getting that record and memories of hearing it for the first time. And it also reminds me of that I came from a small town with, not a great music scene, and certainly no record stores in the early days, and no concerts. Now, a few years later, I had a friend who would deliver music to me to listen to. He would come by with, cassettes or records and say, listen to this, you must listen to this. And I discovered a lot of music that way. And one day he showed up, and he had this in his hand, but it was a cassette copy. He had a copy of King Crimson's Discipline. And I, of course, was familiar with King Crimson. I think everyone had heard in the 21st Century Schizoid Man, and I may have heard parts of Red, I'm not sure. But he had this in his hand in a cassette copy, and I listened to this record. He also had a copy of Beat, but I listened to this record maybe, I don't know, every day for more than once a day for weeks on end, and I found this was a remarkable record. By the way, this is the original knot, Celtic knot here. It was redrawn because of a copyright issue, but this is the original drawing. And this on the back it said, "Discipline is never an end in itself, only a means to an end." So King Crimson Discipline. Again, this is probably a top 10 record for me. And of course, this iteration of King Crimson had Robert Fripp, of course, Adrian Belew, Bill Bruford, and Tony Levin. And because of this record, for years I went down this King Crimson and Associated members' discography. So I collected amazing amounts of records and CDs from Fripp, from Belew, Tony Levin, whatever he was involved with, Bill Bruford's projects. And then also the expanded King Crimson. So when Trey Gunn joined, I have like some of his CDs, Trey Gunn CDs, interesting things. So that was like been a lifelong obsession with King Crimson. And for me, I actually prefer the 80s version of King Crimson to the previous. And I might even choose this as the best King Crimson record. So that, it does remind me of my friend Pete and his delivery of music to me, and sort of expansion of my musical universe. The third thing, I wanted to pick something a little more modern, a little more contemporary. And I'm going to pick a record that I would probably, if you asked me to choose my favorite record from the past 20 years, I know it's almost an impossible task. There's several that would be in contention, and this one would definitely be in contention. I don't know if it would make the top number one, but it would certainly be in the top 5 of my favorite records in the past 20 years, and that is from a band called The Hold Steady, and this record is called Separation Sunday. Now, I would argue that sometimes I would say this is the best band in America. I would make that statement to people. This came out in 2005, and I didn't get it in 2005 because I didn't know about this band in 2005. I knew about them in the album that came after this one, Boys and Girls in America, which is also fantastic. So this is a later repressing from 2016. The original 2005 pressing is quite expensive now, and of course I have this on CD. But this is a band fronted by Craig Finn, Tad Kubler from a band called Lifter Puller. They're from the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, St. Paul. Heavily influenced by The Replacements and Husker Du. This is a black and white photo of somewhere in Brooklyn, by the way. And there's an inner as well, and the repressing is on white vinyl, which I don't love, but, you know, I'm not a fan of white vinyl. But this is, I can't even have the words to describe how much I like this record. And the first time I listened to it, I thought, yeah, that's pretty good. But after a few listens, it just sort of gets in your skin, and there's so many great songs on here. And if you're a fan of rock music, you know, this is maybe like a bar band. I don't know. I saw them in concert a few years back. Fantastic concert, although I think the vocals were a little too low in the mix, but this is great. And Craig Finn, the singer, you know, you might describe him as someone who doesn't have a strong vocals. He's sort of a little screamy in this, not like, you know, hardcore screamy, but you know, not your most polished vocal delivery. It's changed over time. I think he's got a bit better, but I actually like his vocal delivery here. And talk about you know, monster guitar riffs, your power chords. It's incredible. And so I would rank this as their best record and one of my favorite records from the past 20 years. And I do like the album design as well. So there we go. 3 records that remind me of things, or 3 records that remind me of things, or would, you know, you can get to know me through these 3 records. If you like these 3 records, I think we can be friends. So thanks for watching once again. I'll talk to you later.